Part of the trouble is that Barabon had no idea how to arrange the display plumes. The European fascination with exotic creatures, of which Barabon's book had been a part, led in 1829 to the founding of London Zoo, where you could see some of these exciting animals alive. When they died, their skins were prepared for display by John Gould. One year, a collection of bird skins arrived in the zoo from the Himalayas, and Gould persuaded his wife, a talented artist, to make drawings of what the living birds must have looked like. He then published them as a spectacular successor to Barabon's book. Great areas of the world were then still unknown as far as their natural history was concerned, among them Australia. Gould decided that that was a continent whose birds could provide him with marvellous subjects, and off he went with his wife to look for them. He certainly saw the male rifle-bird and its drabber mate. But did he ever see its wonderful display? If he did, he never drew it. Display was not his primary interest. This was a bird that had never been scientifically described. By custom, the first person to do so had the privilege of naming it. That was the prize, and to claim it, you needed a specimen. Gould named the species in honour of Queen Victoria and sent the skin back to an artist in London who had to imagine what it must have looked like when the bird was alive. The finished drawing was to be reproduced by the recently invented process of lithography. First, a draftsman copied it onto a block of fine-grained limestone using a wax pencil. The ink to be used contains a lot of oil. The stone is wetted and then the ink rolled over it. Since the ink is oily, it sticks to the wax lines but not to the wet stone. The stone is fanned to dry off the water. A blank sheet of paper is laid carefully on the inked design, a thick layer of padding, and into the press it goes. The black and white print was then coloured by hand, with, once again, the original drawing as guide. The colours had to be built up in several stages, one at a time. Often, the work was done by whole teams of women, each painter having her own part of the design as her speciality. The rifle bird was just one of 681 plates in Gould's mammoth 6-volume set of The Birds of Australia. He followed that with other huge works, including The Birds of New Guinea, in which some of his most famous plates appeared, including the first drawings of several species of that spectacular family on which today Bill Cooper is such an expert, the birds of paradise. I asked Bill if birds of paradise had always been a particular passion of his.
Ever since I was a child, yeah.
Truly?
Oh, yes. I loved them, and of course their environment always fascinated me, so I can always remember being crazy about birds of paradise and jungle and New Guinea. It was a great fascination.
How did you see them? How did you discover them? How did you know about them?
Well, I can remember, I must have been about 8 when I first got a little book, a Batsford colour book of birds or something, yeah. And had Gould's that beautiful plate of ghouls, lesser bird of paradise, first plate.
Me too.
That's in you
Yeah, really true. Really true.
great.
So it was this plate of John Gould's that gave Bill his earliest ambition to look for birds of paradise and to draw them. New Guinea, the headquarters of the family, is an immense forest-covered island lying in the tropics to the north of Australia. Large parts of it, even today, are pretty wild. 20 years ago, they were even wilder. During the 1970s, Bill went there 4 times and spent a total of 6 months in the field. Many species only live in very restricted areas, and Bill had to get to extremely remote parts if he was to see some of the birds in which he was particularly interested.
I'll never forget the first bird of paradise I ever saw was the Ragiana, and we walked up this old winding track up a ridge, and the most beautiful male Ragiana flew straight across the track in front of me at about eye level, and that to me was just magic. I think I finished up seeing about 40-something species, including bowerbirds, which was quite a lot of species of birds of paradise.
Indeed it was. There are only 62 species in the whole family. They are immensely varied. This one, a parotia, clears a dancing arena on the ground in which to display. Others, like the Ragiana, dance up in the trees.
I can remember a particular occasion. I could see 3 male birds displaying within the field of vision at the one time. It was just beautiful. The normal display where it throws up its wings and calls and the red plumes are thrown up and it leans forward. I can remember one type of display which I had no knowledge of at that time. I'd be testing my memory a bit to keep it accurate, but this display was suddenly different. It turned and faced the female, who was uphill of the male, and the male started shuffling towards her, and he puffed out all his chest feathers, which I often wondered what that was for, but he fluffed them out and formed a great pom-pom through which his beak was protruding. It was a great display. I remember being in camp and seeing a ribbon-tailed bird of paradise feeding on a little fruit way, way up in the forest. And I said to my local New Guinea man, could you climb that to get those fruits? And he said, no trouble. And away he went right up this tree till it terrified me. He got me the fruits and I was able to draw them. Just about everything I collected eventually finished up in the birds of paradise.